Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Robert Wiegand, and he's going to tell us about his near-death experience. Hi, Robert.
Hi, good morning, Peg. Thank you
Good
for
morning.
this time. Yeah, it was just a plane crash about a year ago. I was in Maui and the plane went down, but there's a whole backstory to it that's really quite large. The crash itself wasn't that big a deal, and it was hard to explain it. It wasn't like all the NDEs I've listened to. It did something different to me. It rebooted me. Um, all the experiences where people they go to heaven and all that stuff. I was just right there. I was just outside. There were some people working around the body that were doing something to it. They were tweaking it. But the backstory is really what's important, what led up to it. I kind of pushed the issue, which caused that to happen. And that's really the big story. A lot of things that occurred in my life that brought me to that point were um, basically trying to get my thoughts organized here. There are things that go on Earth that people can't explain. And I started to see them. And when I moved to Hawaii, it's sort of a twilight zone living in Hawaii. There's a lot of entities and beings that walk on the land. You can see them, you can hear them. It's just normal. People don't really think much of it. And they have things called night marchers and stuff like that. But what I tapped into was something that was really severe, really dark, and I didn't bring it on myself. It just I don't know, somehow got my address and took it to another level that I had never seen before. So I ended up finding a man in the islands that helped me that deals with this kind of stuff. He's like under the radar. He's a Hawaiian. And this is all he's been doing for the last 30, 40 years. So I learned a lot about the Hawaiian traditions, about the Hawaiian perceptions of meditation and the heart and what love is and what the human condition is and so forth. And as I started to learn this stuff with him, it was like punching holes in the metaphysical. And whatever didn't want me to get this information or to punch through really took offense to it all. And so the crash really was because about 3 days earlier, I had basically said to them that give it your best shot. I'm really tired of the abuse. And so 3 days later, I'm in a plane crash. I wasn't able to walk for about 10 months. Broke my leg, broke my knee, broke my back, uh, busted up my face. I was ripped up all over the place. I'm really surprised that we both made it. It was me and a pilot. I wasn't flying. It was me and a pilot. I'm surprised that we both made it. The crash happened right next to this what they call a heiau. A heiau is an altar. It's giant. It's like a city block, and I don't know how high it is. 3, 4, 5 stories high. I've only been up to it one time, and we normally don't fly over it out of respect. And I told him, I said, don't fly over that heiau. A lot of human sacrifice and animal sacrifice had been done on it over centuries, and so it's a place you can go visit, but anyway, out of respect, pilots don't fly over it. So he flies over it.
Okay.
I go, oh man, I hope this ain't going to cause any trouble. And then we crashed like a few minutes after that. I'm not saying that the hay caused it. It was something else. So I don't really blame the pilot for it. Anyway, moving on all that stuff. Uh, what led up to that was um, meeting this guy in Hawaii. I was having a lot of trouble in the house. A lot of entities and beings and whatnot were coming through the house. That opened my eyes up to so many things that go on with the human condition. I was just sort of flabbergasted by it all. So I wrote a book and published it. And man, I'm not kidding. All heck broke loose when I sent that out. So what I came to learn is, go ahead.
What do you mean, oh heck broke loose? Like the spirits?
Oh yeah, the spirits just came forward. They were very severe. They didn't want this information out. They really did everything to stop me. Like they wanted me dead. And then what he did is he got in between me and them and he kept stopping it. And while he was doing that, he was just giving me ancient information that goes back. Oh, I have no idea how far back it goes. It goes way back to the Lemurians. And apparently it was all, well, it's not apparent, it was obvious that it was all very close held information. This is stuff people don't even know about. And he gave it to me in an organized format that I could do something with it. And I realized that there's a formula that we could raise our frequency and that we could actually, while we're in this human condition, reach heaven without having to induce plant medicine or near-death experiences or die and come back. And it's a pretty simple formula. But there were some things that block us from that in our human body. The human body is pretty incredible, and it has defaults set in it where the heart is offline for the most part. I mean, it's online for us between each other and nature and the planet. And then, some people, they just kind of block that out and they just do whatever. But the reason we're not connected back to our soul is, and when people have a near-death experience, this is really interesting. When people have a near-death experience, what they're doing is they're separating from their body. And so all the parameters that keep us at this low frequency are no longer there. They're held in the body. They're not part of the soul. And so are the spirit. So when the spirit leaves the body, they immediately expand and they start to remember sort of who they are, not totally, but where they came from, but not totally. And also some information that comes into them that they start to remember, which was theirs to begin with. And they say that, oh, I was told this, I was told that. They already knew it. And then when they come back, they have some of these memories with them. But when people die, there's a limit how far they can go into the metaphysical. I'll just call it the metaphysical. So it's sort of like a holding area. And they'll be able to see things, know things. People will meet them, people they know, God, Jesus, all that. But if they go too far into that distance from the human condition, they'll never be able to come back. It's sort of like you'll take back too much knowledge with you, and you can't do that. So we're supposed to be here. We're supposed to be stupid and ignorant, and we're supposed to just try to find our way. So what he started to show me was how to navigate back into the soul without having to induce it through plant medicines or near-death experiences, but it was like a mathematical formula. So I started doing it, and then that's when all this crazy stuff from the spirit world came down and started doing things that were absolutely unbelievable. It was like watching the Matrix in real time, and like Mr. Smith jumping into people, and then they would turn into him and attack him, and stuff like that. I actually ended up running from all this for a year. I left Hawaii. I got an RV and I ran across America for a year, drove about 10,000 miles running from this stuff. And it's like everywhere I went, it was like darkness was chasing me. But in the process of doing all that, I was uh, raising my frequency. So the way you raise your frequency it's really simple, but the problem, let's say, the possibility exists in everyone to raise their frequency, but the probability is almost not there. They use bowls, they use meditations and all these things, and these are things in the mind. The mind has a limit. We put too much emphasis on it. It's actually all in the heart. So people are aware of this. Many people are aware of it, and there are people that are online with their heart, but they're not quite aware of what they have going for them. The heart works like a quantum computer. And this is where people, when they have their NDE, they're experiencing it almost like a heart experience. It's not a mental mind experience. So what's interesting about doctors and scientists. They say, oh, you're having a DMT dump or it's a chemical reaction and you're having an hallucination. And it's a psychedelic thing and that's all it is. But actually, you're having a heart experience. It's not a mind experience. Um, so I finally broke it down like this. There are four components to the human condition. There's the mind, the psychology, the psyche, and the emotions. And that's where I start. And with that, that's where everything branches off of. And that's where everything comes in and affects the human. Many of the things like the chatter in the mind, or meetings with people, chance meetings with people, or attractions that turn disastrous, that's not coming from the individual. That's being induced into the individual. And that no one really knows this. Our lives are totally directed. This idea of free will, it exists to a little extent, but not much. Most everything is directed. It has to do with contracts, soul contracts before we come here. And
Now,
it's
where
pretty
did
well
you
laid
get
out.
that at? Where'd you get that
Uh,
idea?
I
Soul
didn't get the
contracts.
idea. I actually know it. It's a knowing. I know it for sure. It's not an idea. All
Did
of
it come
everything I
during your
tell.
NDE or, I mean,
And
can
it
you
did,
tell us more about your
yeah.
NDE?
The NDE was really simple. I won't get into the mechanics of how it happened, but it just knocked me out of my body, and there were several beings around my body tweaking it. They were doing something to it. I don't know what they were doing. And then they kept pushing me back. And then when they were done, they let me in. And I had a broken leg, a broken knee, a broken back, and I walked out of the jungle. Once I got on the tarmac, man, that's when I realized I got some problems. But I didn't feel anything. And after that, it felt like the old person that I was fading away, like it was a dream. And a new aspect came forward, like my soul came forward. And in that soulness, that's where all the knowingness is. So your soul knows everything. You don't have to learn anything, but there is a veil that's put up so that you don't have access to that knowingness. So we leave, so in this life, we come here to live in believing presumptions, assumptions, and everything that we really perceive and think is not really the case. It's aspects of the case, but it's not a fullness of it to where you could walk your way out of what I call the human condition. The human condition is throttled down or geared down. Like you hear people talk about their spirit coming into their body and they feel like they're shrinking or being compressed into a bottle. Um, there are energies that exist in the body that keep it governors on it so that the heights of spirituality are very difficult to attain. It's very difficult to raise one's frequency. It's not a simple process. It all takes place in the psychology, about 90% of it. Um, once the psychology, the ego, which Carl Jung calls the shadow, once these things are mastered, then there's no place to go but back to your divinity. So mastering the human condition is really the key here. And that's why I broke it down in those 4 points: the mind, the psychology, the psyche, and the emotions. Um,
So did
it's
you
like,
reach heaven in your near-death experience?
again, like I said, I was outside my body and there were these beings that were tweaking my body. And then I was put back in, and it's like I was connected to my soul. And so I have knowings now, not believings. I know things. And that's just what happened. It wasn't a typical NDE, but I had spent 3 years prior to this studying with this guy in Hawaii. His name's Kia. He's my friend. And he's mastered all this stuff. These are passed down from more than 1,000 years. It's like you would call it hidden knowledge or whatever. It's not written about in any of the books, not even in the Sanskrit. Though Sanskrit mentions to this stuff, it doesn't tell you the mechanics of how to get to it. It's a formula. And the
So
first thing that he did,
what's
what?
the formula?
Well, it's pretty simple. You have to master love and you have to master your human condition. But first you have to master love. And human love is I love you today, I hate you tomorrow. That's not it. It's a different kind of love. A lot of people talk about it. They call it divine love, but they don't know what divine love is actually. It's not emotional based. It's law. So divine love, the way that they told me was this: when the architects built the architecture for the universe and the Big Bang occurred, the Big Bang was taking divine love and putting it into the form of an element and then detonating it and exploding. And so everything has the element of divine love in it. It's an actual element. It's a physical property. And so when one starts to tune in, it's a really high frequency though, and to tune into it, the only way you can do it is with your heart, but the heart has to be turned on. Uh, the heart is like in a cage. It's done metaphysically. Everyone's agreed to that coming here. So when the heart is turned on, then that connection the ability to connect to divine love starts to take place, but it doesn't happen instantly. What it starts to do is to reveal to you your human condition, and then you work at mastering it. But I had to have a master walk me through all this stuff because it's so complicated. It's so big that there's no way I could have ever done it on my own. All the materials that I've studied the metaphysics for years. I've looked at things. I've traveled the world, and there is no way you can take all the information of the whole planet, put it together, and make this thing possible. It's because the information it's coming in at a very low frequency, and divine love is a very high frequency. So you have to work at a very high frequency to master the human condition. It's called checkmating. You have to checkmate yourself. What I discovered in the process is there are a lot of entities that come in to make sure you don't do that. They hold that back. But when a person dies and they go through a near-death experience, they become free of that because the jurisdiction is over the physical body, not over the spirit. So when the spirit separates from the body, they can go to heaven. They don't really go to heaven. They go to an area that's sort of like, I call it a holding area. If they were to actually go to heaven, they would never come back. They wouldn't be allowed. They would come back with too much information and too much connection, and it would eliminate the game, because what we came here to do is to play a game, and the game is
Okay.
hide and seek. The hide and seek is to find ourselves. So the whole game is internal, not external. But everything that we learn in life is externalized. So we have to use bowls, meditations. We have to use religion. We have to use politics, whatever. We have to go get a job, make money. Everything's externalized, but the true journey is internal. It's like I found the whole universe is inside me, but it's held inside the heart. It's like Pandora's box, but for the good. So all the secrets are held inside the heart. And the interesting thing about it is, as I started working on this with him, one day I went to him and I go, I don't know what's going on, but as I drive my thoughts into my heart, all I go is into darkness. And he started laughing, and he goes, where do you think all the secrets are? And I go, what? Wait a minute. You're telling me that darkness is where all the secrets are? I thought it was bad. He goes, where do you think God hides everything? He doesn't hide it in the light. He hides it in the dark. All darkness is the other side of light. It's light. Divine love is darkness. The divine love is playing a game with itself. And we consciously are in divine love's game, playing a game with our own self. And the way we play it was with our own psychology. So as he taught me this stuff and I started to realize it, then I started seeing many aspects of myself. In the website I put up, there's only a handful of things that I saw inside me that as I went through and were mastering these things. Now, as I did this for 3 years, I also was with a narcissist that was very severe. And that was a great lesson for me. Um, I won't get into that unless you want to ask questions about it. But
What was your website?
it's inspireme.global.
Okay.
Inspireme.global. And what it is I'm just laying out some of the human conditions, like what is ego, what is heart, what is divine love, what is the human condition, what is emotion, what is mind, what is time, um, and some other things I forgot. It's only a handful. Oh man, there's way more than what I was able to put on there, but I realized that it's that there's a lot of information in and of itself. I'm starting to make YouTube videos to explain these things as best I can and create a format for people to follow. But one of
Did
the
you say
things I
you
could,
wrote a book before your NDE? Did I catch
yeah,
you
I wrote a
right?
book. Yeah, that was a prior life I had. I was in the SEAL teams. I worked with the different government agencies. I got into just sort of the inner workings of how things operate here on Earth. And so I just wrote a book on it. I don't promote it anymore, and I don't have anything to do with it. It's a prior life, and I really like to put it behind me and forget it.
So you
Um,
had this knowledge all prior to your NDE.
Everything I've told you to this point was given to me by my friend Kiahi in Hawaii. I didn't know any of this stuff. What I knew before this was uh, quite dark, severe stuff, how the world actually operates. And I never knew
But
why I was. Go ahead.
but your NDE itself, um, you were given information as well, or you just feel like they were tweaking you, or I'm kind of
The NDE,
confused.
it's not really, I wouldn't call it like so much an NDE like everyone else talks about typically. They're surprised. So let me talk about how it led up to that. That will give them better information. So for 3 years, I'm working with him on a daily basis, trying to understand all this. Well, I wasn't trying, I was actually accomplishing it. I was mastering love, mastering my human self. And as I did that, my divinity started to come forward more and more through my heart. I'm like, wait a minute. If we can master these aspects of our humanness, well, there's nowhere to go but back to our soul, our divinity. So I started working on seeing if I could bring my soul forward, and it worked. That was amazing. But in all this time, what was going on is like it was Amityville Horror, The Exorcist, The Shining, everything, all those movies represent, and more, way more past that was going on in my home. My home was like a bus stop of the most severe metaphysical beings that they don't even write stories about some of these guys. I started to realize the devil was middle management. There are things above him way more severe. And thank goodness they're not on Earth because they would wipe everybody out. The the that was my training ground or my learning. As this process was going on with him and I was making all these gains, I learned about soul covenant. I learned about how to break a soul covenant. I learned about curses. I learned about how to break curses. I learned about divine love and how to turn the heart on. And I learned about how to settle the mind down and move entities away, move darkness out of people. He started teaching me all these skills, and then, man, there was like a group I called the Entourage. They just kept pounding on me, and I was in Hawaii, and I just said, finally, it was a Wednesday, and I said, you know what, guys? Because I could see these guys, I could talk to them, and I said, I'm done with this. I've done everything. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm doing what I'm built to do, and you guys are trying to stop it. So give it your best shot, and let's just get this over with. And that's when the plane crash happened. So I knew something was coming, but I didn't know what it was. And as the plane was going down, I was looking out the window and I'm going, why are we still going down? And I go, hey, God, am I going to die today? And I didn't hear anything. It was just silent. And then crash, bang, boom, on the ground, and gas went all over me. I was completely covered. All the electronics were on, and I thought I was going to light up because these planes go up in fireballs when they land. I thought for sure it was going to be a fireball. The plane was at a canter, and I was up here. I go, thank goodness I do CrossFit, man, because I had no way to get out of here. And I knew there was something wrong in my body. I didn't realize I busted up my leg and back. So I slid over this guy. His window popped out because I couldn't, like the tree that we hit crushed me, crushed my door and crushed me. So I slid out. I stood up. I got to walk away. This plane's going to go on fire. I heard him gurgling. Oh, you got to be kidding me. I got to go back to the plane and get this guy. I'm going to, oh, whatever. If I die, I die, but I can't leave him there. So I got over there and I realized that there was something in my, as I was doing all this, it was like I was phasing in and out. And I started seeing these guys working on the body and they kept me out. So I tried 3 times to get in and they pushed me back. And then when they were done, they let me in. And I walked
You
over to
mean
the guy.
spirits?
Yeah, spirits let me in. Yeah. And then I walked over to the guy. I said, he was knocked out. And then some people ran in the jungle and I asked them which way to go. And they pointed and I walked out. And there's a police truck out there. So I just popped the tailgate, got in the back of the truck and laid down. And that's the last time I walked in like 10 months. So
Is the pilot okay?
yeah, he's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, he walked away. He walked away. I didn't. I was jacked up, but he was fine. Um, you can look it up on like January 15th plane crash in Maui and you'll see the plane. It's totally destroyed. And so the plane crash, this NDE thing, I can't really classify it like an NDE like everyone else. It was really something really, really different. But it was from the culmination of all the studies and practices I was learning and developing and disciplining myself in with my friend Kiahi. This was the result of it all. What I realized is that it was like, in order to have this information, I had to die for it. So when the plane crash happened and I came out of it, I was rebooted. It's like my brain and my heart, everything came online all at once. And then I just became a knowing one. I'm connected to my soul, so I know things. So everyone has a soul contract. It's not a guess. I know it. I broke my soul contract. That's one of the things that really upset him before the plane crash. I broke curses in me and my familial bloodline. When you break a curse in yourself, you break it for your bloodline. You're born in, and About 80% of the people, it appears, have curses, but it comes from their ancestrals or it comes from things they choose to do. They happen really fast. It isn't like something that you have to go incantate in some ceremony. It's just based on choices. What we really have here are choices. That's really what we have. I mean, people don't even know how to change their car tire if they have a flat tire. So don't think that we're all super special cosmonauts of the intellectual universe. We're not. We agreed to come down here to be really dumbed down. We're actually quite stupid. And so we get taken advantage of by all kinds of things that don't make themselves known to us. And that's the thing that really started to bother me, is I started seeing a lot of the situations that we're in are being induced upon us. They're not something that we just would normally choose for ourselves. A lot of the chatter in our brain is not us. It's being induced in us. It comes in the back of the neck, back here. And the influences create anxiety in the heart. And from anxiety, that's the seed to create any emotion out of that it wants. Typically not positive, but negative, like fear, anger, jealousy. It could create love, but then it turns to jealousy or anger or fear. So that's not
Uh,
divine love.
Who do you think these beings were?
They're on assignment. They're here to give us a lesson, to teach us. Basically, they're a combination of energies, entities, beings, and extraterrestrials. And they're all sort of working in concert. And if you dig back all the layers, you'll usually find the extraterrestrials at the back of it all. It's because they're physical beings and they have if you're physical, you have more power over something non-physical than the non-physical does. That's just because we're in a physical world, so the physical takes precedence. But if you don't know that, then they're going to always take advantage of that.
And where's
So
God, Jesus, heaven? Where does it fit in all this?
it's inside you and your heart.
That are these extraterrestrial from there, a part of that, or
Everything's from divine love. So the way it is the architects sit outside the universe. There are many universes. I have no idea. I heard a number of 10 to the 42nd power universes. But out in this place outside the universes, it's a field of some sort. And the architects create the blueprints for a universe. And when they're done, then they use divine love to initiate the Big Bang to create the universe. And then inside the universe is a game, and we come in here to play a game. And it's a game of basically self-realization. Earth is at the lowest energetic frequency of the entire game. So we're at the bottom of the pit. We're at the bottom of the barrel. Everything else is higher than this. All the beings, all the entities, all the divineness that is inside the universe, all is subject to divine love. They all are subject to the laws of divine love. So when your heart connects direct to divine love, you connect direct to law. And by law, you can master yourself in the human condition while you're living and bring your soul forward into your current life. And then basically when you do that, you've mastered the universe. Because if you can do it here at the lowest level, you've mastered the entire game.
what do
So
you mean,
everybody's coming
master
here
of the
for
universe? What's the big?
uh that's a movie, Masters of the Universe.
That's what
What
you
it means
said,
is
right?
that,
Or
yeah,
what's
that's, well, if a person is okay, you have karate. You're the student. You don't know anything. The master comes in and he wipes the floor up with you. One day, after a lot of training, you become the master. And a student comes in and you wipe the floor up with them. So that's just a term that we use as humans, a master. But what it is that you you learn the mechanics and the methodologies and the laws that pertain to the different dimensions and realms. And as you go up the scale, it's a rising scale. As you go up a dimension or go up into the realms, you're in a new set of laws. Those laws are different than the ones below it. But if you can master the laws in the human form, in this lowest frequency, you virtually master all of them from the lowest to the highest. So most everybody that's here, probably everybody here, are really high divine beings. When I talk to people, I see their divinity within them. And so I try to help them bring it out of them. If they can bring it out of them, they pretty much have become masters of the game in a way that it cannot be done anywhere else in the universe.
Did your
So
NDE change you? You say they tweaked you. Like, what was that like?
What happened is that our memories of our life, or human life, are pretty much all false. The way we remember things is not the way they really happened. And emotions get attached to it. And then there are entities that come along and they play with it. And so we have all these traumas and experiences and events that we don't totally understand correctly. And so we live in hurt, pain, suffering, guilt, shame. And that doesn't really exist. That's all an illusion.
No, I'm
So what
talking
they
about,
did, so what
okay,
they
go ahead.
did is they erased all that in me. So they erased the memories and they just connected the memories with the emotions. And when I came out of it, I'm like, man, I really can't remember much of my old life. I can remember it in ways, but like I don't live in it.
Well, you
I don't
remember
live in
everything
my
he
old life.
taught you. I mean, that's everything you're talking about
Well, that
is
was
what
all
you,
metaphysical. That was all in the heart. So that I never forgot. I'm talking about the brain. The heart and the brain are totally different. And so in the brain, you hold your memories of this life, and it's all connected to emotions, which typically turn dark. And so people have traumas, belief systems, uh, methodologies. Ego comes in and makes it concrete in them that it's totally true. And you have to master all these things. And when I did, um, because I mastered ego, I put them away over a year ago before the event. That it then it gave the right to, well, I couldn't do it myself, but I was working on it with him on how to erase bad memories, how to disconnect memories from emotions that were causing negative belief systems. And as I was, what the crash did was it's just like accelerated it and did it all at once. So it was all erased all at one moment. So what I realized is that I worked on the things that he taught me, and I started focusing on them. That an event would occur that would initiate it, and it would be It would be like really fast, like within less than 2 or 3 minutes. Like I'll give you an example. In the military, when I got out of the military, I had like a lot of emotional trauma. One day I'm talking to him and I'm on the phone with him, and we did all this on the phone. It wasn't like I was in person with him. I met him like 5 times. So he's talking to me and I go, "Hey, Kelly, I can't follow you. I don't know what you're talking about, man. My head is really hurting and I can't figure it out." And he goes, "Here, let me give you a blessing." And he blessed me. And I was like, these hands went in my head and they went, whoop, pulled out all this energy. And then all my brain turned on and connection to all that trauma was gone instantly. And I go, wait a second. Are you telling me that everything that we have, feel, and think and believe in our bodies is just a temporary thing? And he said, yeah, it is. When you die, it all goes away instantly. When people have these NDEs, it's like, phew, it's gone. And then they come back in and they're back into their old system, but they're changed a little bit from it. They may have some gifts or abilities, or they may have some understandings and knowings, but they're still in the human condition. And it takes them almost 7 years to kind of resolve their near-death experience with what's happening in the human world. And eventually they'll start to come out and talk. Mine wasn't like that. I knew right away after the crash. It started to become really obvious. I'm like, I called him on the phone, or actually he called me. He goes, "Hey, brother, I heard there was a plane crash in Hawaii." I was in Hawaii. He called because it went like in 15 minutes. The entire island chain knew that I crashed. The cop took a photo and then sent it out to the newspaper, and it went poop, hit the airwaves. It all happened really fast. So where am I in this? Oh, so he called me up and he goes, "Hey man, did I heard there's a plane crash. I was just calling to see if it wasn't you." And I go, "It was me. I'm in the ambulance." And he goes, "Oh my gosh." And then like really quick after that I realized that everything I had been working on with him had been initiated and put into play. Well, I this is more important. The NDEs are really nice. They're what they are. They're about letting us know where we came from. They're like I don't know, a Hallmark card, a Valentine's card. We're still loved. It's so tough here. It's so dark. It's so severe. It's so disconnected that you can be around a million people and be alone and wanting to commit suicide because you're so alone. You can be right next to someone like your husband or wife or your child and feel empty inside. It is the most intense, dark experience that is available in the universe to be had. And people line up to come here to see what they're made of. When I started to realize it was a game and it was a game of hide and seek, that I actually hid from myself in my contract, and I was here to find myself, that it was inside me, that all of it was held inside my heart. Like your child, your innocence, your purity, everything is held inside your heart. And to get access to that, oh, that's when game's over. you go, there's nowhere to go but back to your divinity. That's when you can go to God, you can go to divine love, you can go wherever you want. You can go to Jesus. It's easy. But before that happens, it's a lot of, people, it's the probability is there, but the possibility is like almost not there. That's how severe it is here. I think what happened is that this game was being played like eons ago, where it wasn't so difficult to get back to one's divinity. But now the way things are on Earth, they're just so dark and severe. In the book I wrote before it was talking about all this stuff because I personally firsthand saw everything I wrote about in the book. That the experience I had was like a tour of the condition of the human condition and how bad it really is. And I just thought, man, there's no hope for us. There's just no hope for humanity. But then when I met Kiahi, then I realized there is hope for humanity. And so when he was finished with me, he told me about 2 months ago, you need to go out to the public and give all this information out that's never been given out before. This is something that's been held within my bloodline. I'm the last of the Mohicans, so to speak. And so I told him out of his, because the guy really saved my life. He really showed me an unconditional love I've never seen in a human being. Humans don't have this kind of unconditional love. They just don't have it. This guy has it. And out of respect for him, I said, okay, I'll go out and I'll start telling people. I'll tell them everything you know. I'll tell them everything I learned and I experienced. And
And you
the
said,
thing
is
that's
this
really,
all on your website?
oh, what's on my website is not even 1% of what I was given and know. It's
Like
just a
if people go
starter.
to your website, what will they find?
They'll find just a home page that links on to other pages talking about different aspects of the human condition. They'll find a YouTube link where I have YouTube stuff I put out talking about ego. There's other things I need to put out. How to see, people want to deal with ego. I'll just talk about ego. Ego is on the website. You can go to a link called ego. You can also go to the YouTube link, and then there's a video I put out on ego. And ego is a really funny thing. People want to go right at it. They want to tackle it. It's going to kick your butt. You cannot beat ego toe to toe. You cannot beat these entities toe to toe. The way the game is set up, you are a loser. We're all born losers. But there's a way to checkmate them, but you have to do it with divine love and you have to do it with law. And
What do you
divine love
mean when
is
you
law.
say you have to, you can't beat these entities? What are you talking about?
Yeah, the more you try to go at the entities and beat them, the more they power up and they overwhelm you. They have all their memories going back to the beginning, and we have no memories.
Are you
So
talking about like evil?
there's no evil. They're teachers. The concepts humans
Why,
have is all wrong.
why you gotta beat them?
It's checkmating them. Because when you checkmate them, then they realize you understand the game, and then they'll try a few more times, but then they eventually leave you alone because they don't like to lose. So when they lose again and again and again, they eventually just leave you alone. So what I do is I facilitate that. I can bless people and I can give them these things and they can take off and run with them. That's the
Okay,
difference between an NDE can't do that, but I can do that. I have the keys to pass that out to other people, get them
okay.
started, and then they can pass it out and pass it out
Is there a
like a
final
domino.
message you'd like to leave everyone?
No, that's the message.
Okay,
Everyone is divine. Everyone is, you can call them an angel. We all come from divinity. There is no evil. There is no evil in anyone. We're just here to learn. It's a game and play the game, have fun.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Uh,